Today, we're diving into a historic collision of worlds. We're going to look at how a new faith, born in a quiet corner of the Roman Empire, managed to turn the entire Greco-Roman world completely upside down.
So, how on earth did this happen? How did a small, often persecuted group from what was basically a backwater province pose a challenge to the mightiest empire the world had ever known? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at it from two sides: how the early Christians saw the world, and, just as important, how the powerful Roman world saw them.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start by getting inside their heads, exploring the core beliefs of the insiders. Then, we'll flip the script and see how those beliefs were perceived and even investigated by the outsiders, from the top philosophers in Athens all the way to the Roman governors themselves.
All right, so to get a handle on the insider view, there's no better place to start than the most concentrated dose of Jesus' ethical teaching we have, the Sermon on the Mount. And you have to understand, this wasn't just a nice speech. It was basically a declaration of a whole new moral universe.
I mean, just look at this. It's a total flip of everything that mattered. The Roman world was built on honor and glory, stacking up wealth, grabbing power, and climbing the social ladder. And Jesus comes along and turns that completely on its head. He says the truly blessed people are the ones the world ignores: the mourning, the meek, the persecuted. This wasn't just different, it was a direct, shocking challenge to their entire social order.
And this quote right here, it just hammers the point home. The Greco-Roman ideal was what they called the great-souled man. You know, the assertive, powerful, confident leader. The idea that the meek of all people would inherit the earth, that wasn't just wrong to them, it was laughable. It flew in the face of everything they believed about what it meant to live a successful life.
And to really get how revolutionary this was, you have to understand one Greek word, makarios. See, this word was used to describe the state of the gods on Mount Olympus, totally happy beyond all pain and suffering. And Jesus takes this word for divine bliss and applies it to the people who are suffering the most. He's literally declaring that the people the world sees as total losers are, in God's kingdom, the ones who are truly fortunate.
But the challenge wasn't just social, it was intellectual too. Next up, let's see how this new faith engaged with the highest form of Greek thinking, philosophy itself.
So for centuries, you have these brilliant Greek philosophers, particularly the Stoics, and they're all searching for the logos. To them, this was the divine reason, the rational principle, the blueprint that held the entire cosmos together. It was this profound, cosmic it. And then, the Apostle John comes along and makes this absolutely jaw-dropping claim. That universal it you've all been looking for, it became a person. The cosmic it became a historical him. I mean, this one sentence is just a thunderclap in the history of ideas. The eternal, abstract principle of the universe, the logos, is no longer just some concept you think about. According to John, it became a man, someone you could actually see and touch and listen to. This was philosophy literally becoming flesh and blood history.
Okay, so you've got these radical, world-flipping ideas. How did they actually go over with the intellectual elites of the day? Well, for that, let's turn to our first outsider perspective, a real-life encounter in Athens, the philosophical capital of the world. What's so fascinating here is Paul's strategy. He's on Mars Hill, he's surrounded by philosophers, and he doesn't just barge in quoting scriptures they've never heard of. No, he's way smarter than that. He builds a bridge. He points to one of their own altars and says, hey, that unknown God you guys worship just in case, let me tell you who he is. He even quotes their own poets, meeting them right on their home turf.
So, what was the verdict? Well, it was all over the map. You had some guys who just openly mocked him, especially when he got to the part about a physical resurrection. Then you had the curious ones, the ones who said, interesting, we'll hear you out again sometime. And then you had a tiny handful who actually believed. It gives you a perfect snapshot of the kind of intellectual resistance this new message was up against.
All right, let's shift gears now. We're moving from the philosopher's courtyard to the governor's courtroom, a place where this new faith wasn't just a topic for debate, it was a matter of life and death.
So picture the scene. The Apostle Paul is on trial before the Roman governor Festus and King Agrippa. His life is literally on the line. But his defense, it isn't some clever legal argument. Nope. He just tells his personal story, this dramatic account of his conversion on the road to Damascus. And he ends it by putting the king himself on the spot.
And this scene is just brilliant because it gives you these three timeless responses. First, you've got Festus, the pragmatic, no-nonsense Roman. His conclusion? Paul is insane. Then there's King Agrippa. He gets it, he's intrigued, he's moved, but he won't commit. Almost, he says. And finally, you have Paul, whose conviction is just absolute. You've got dismissal, hesitation, and total commitment, all right there in one room.
Now for our final, and maybe the most valuable outsider source we have. This isn't a philosopher or a king. This is an official report from a Roman governor named Pliny the Younger, writing to the Emperor Trajan around the year 112 AD, and he is completely puzzled.
So Pliny is investigating these Christians to figure out what to do with them, and look what he finds. They meet before dawn, they sing a hymn to Christ like he's a god, and then they take a solemn oath, not to commit crimes, but to avoid them. They swear off fraud, theft, and adultery. He's expecting to uncover some dark conspiracy, and instead he finds a group of shockingly ethical people sharing a harmless meal. And right here, this is the absolute kicker. Pliny's investigation basically reveals that the Christians weren't being persecuted for anything they did. Their real crime was what they refused to do, which was offer a pinch of incense to the Roman guards and the emperor's statue. In the eyes of the Roman state, their crime was just sheer, immovable stubbornness.
So let's pull all these threads together now. When you get right down to it, what was at the absolute heart of this historic conflict? From the inside, this was about personal faith and exclusive devotion to a lord who had totally upended the world's values. But from the outside, the Roman state saw something very, very different. They saw a stubborn, exclusive superstition whose refusal to play along with the state religion looked like a direct challenge to the emperor's total authority. So when you boil it all down, this struggle between the early church and the Roman Empire wasn't really about crime or even about strange beliefs. It was a clash over kingship. It all came down to a single question: who has ultimate authority? Who deserves your ultimate loyalty? Caesar or Christ?
And that fundamental conflict, that clash between an upside-down kingdom of conscience and an empire's demand for absolute loyalty, it didn't end in the Roman arena. It's a tension that has echoed down through the centuries, shaping the course of Western history right up to this very day.